What's up, Rams fans? Welcome back to Ram Showcase right here on Sports War Radio. I am Sheriff Joe Baggs, and this is Ram Showcase. Tonight, I've got a special guest for you guys because you guys know I'm not necessarily the draft guru, so I'm bringing in an outside source here. So tonight we've got Joshua Cole Allen, the man with 3 first names, at Joshua _C_Allen on Twitter. Make sure you guys follow him there. He is the host of the Audible on Bucs Report. And if you guys should know the Bucs Report by now, we've spoken with many of these guys over at Bucs Report plenty of times. And we're not even going to mention, except for just this one time, that the Bucs, while they were Super Bowl champions last year, were unable to defeat the Los Angeles Rams. So maybe they'll have better luck next year. Maybe they'll have a successful season next year. We'll see what happens.
And there's a rematch. So, hey, let's get ready for round 2.
Is that in LA or is it Tampa Bay? I think it's in LA.
That's in LA this time, yeah.
Ooh, maybe that's one to go to, man. I'm looking for a game to go to this year. Maybe that's
Absolutely.
I guess the Super Bowl champs. Yeah, I'll take that one. All right, man. So I brought you here for a specific reason. We're here to talk draft. I am not draft guy. I watch Texas A&M college football and sometimes Air Force. That's my local squad out here in Colorado Springs. That's about the cap of my draft knowledge of these stuff, except for like top 10. I know Trevor Lawrence. That's I got some credit there. So I just want to know from really we just need the outside perspective here, all right? Because I'm obviously a Rams fan. Rams Showcase is 5 years old. I think that every single pick that the Rams have is absolute genius, and there's no way around that. So one thing that I'm looking at, a lot of the stuff that's in the draft preparation, is I'm seeing that the Rams need a wide receiver, that wide receiver is a need for the LA Rams. But with Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Deshaun Jackson, and guys like Van Jefferson on the roster, I don't know if I consider that a need. From the outside perspective, do you see the wide receiver position as a need for the LA Rams?
Well, last year I loved Van Jefferson. I believe you guys took him in the 2nd or 3rd round. I was really high on him as a prospect. The fact that you brought in Deshaun Jackson, I think you lost one of the tight ends, Gerald Everett maybe, and also obviously Josh Reynolds. I don't really see it. Yeah, I don't really see it as that big of like a major, oh man, we need a wide receiver. But anytime you give McVay more weapons to play with, I think it's always, something that you can definitely look into. Now, if they need a wide receiver that could fit a specific role, a specific need, like I don't know if you really want Deshaun Jackson punts and kicks anymore after the injuries he suffered in the past couple of years. But they could definitely stand to add a wide receiver. This is a deep wide receiver draft, so throwing darts at the board at a wide receiver, no matter if it's early or in the middle rounds, make a lot of sense because you can find a gem there. But looking at it from the outside, I think they did a good job of obviously bringing guys in with Cooper Kupp. Robert Woods was a huge pickup for them and continues to show he is. I think Deshaun Jackson offers another level and really takes the top off that defense with his speed to give Woods and Kupp more room to work underneath. You still have good tight end there and Tyler Higbee. And you added Van Jefferson last year. I like Van Jefferson a lot. I think he's going to be able to turn into a good player. And let's not forget, you have my favorite running back in the draft last year, Cam Akers, who can do damage in the backfield and out of the backfield on short and intermediate routes as well, with that flexibility to kind of bump out to the slot on some plays and certain looks as well. So I think you're good at wide receiver. But again, if you're looking for someone to return punts, someone to, just have as a depth option behind those top 4 guys, it wouldn't hurt to add one in this draft, especially because it's so deep.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's a lot of options at the wide receiver position, and this coming up as a need made me kind of look into a few guys, not the whole class or anything, but just looking into a few guys. And one of the names that really stuck out to me as a Rams fan was Anthony Schwartz. Do you think this pick for the Rams makes sense at any round, or do you think there's an even better fit in this class for the Rams offense?
Well, see, Anthony Schwartz, I believe, a lot of people project him as a 4th round pick, which I can see because he's got track speed, 4.25. If you can get this guy to learn how to run crisp routes, catch the ball, a lot of the times, he's not the most crisp route runner. He gets a little bit lackadaisical and kind of veers off some of his routes, which if you're going to play with a veteran quarterback like Matt Stafford, I'm sure he's going to want you to run crisper routes. He double catches the ball sometimes, which if you know that, I mean, he drops catches in the same sequence. So his hands could definitely work a little bit better because of his size. He's not small, but he's also not terribly big. once he gets wrapped up tackle, that's pretty much it. He doesn't have much ability to break through tackles. But if you get this guy in open space, forget about it. He's kind of reminds me a little bit of Henry Ruggs last year, where any way you can get the ball into this guy's hands, whether it be a jet sweep, a screen pass, anywhere you can get the ball in space, get him the ball in space and let his legs and speed and elusiveness make people miss and gain chunk yardage. That's the type of guy I see him. But as far as a true wide receiver, I think he's got a long way to go before he develops into that. He's very raw. Also, as a track star, he does offer tremendous special teams, not only as a gunner, but if he can get punt returning, kick returning down, I think he'd excel in that role. Anytime, again, open space. He's got pretty good field vision as well. I think those two things play really well into his hands. But I don't like the 4th round grade on him. I see him more as a late 5th, early 6th type guy, just because of the developmental track that he needs to go on. Another guy I like who could be around in that 4th, 5th round area is Marquez Stevenson out of Houston. Same kind of guy, fast. He's 5'10", 182 pounds, but he's got much better hands. He's a more crisp route runner. He can high point the ball. He's physical on his routes, and he's got that speed as well. Punt return, kick return ability, gunner ability. And if you're going to go after a wide receiver in the draft and you're looking at speed, because Jackson has not been, the picture perfect of health in the last few years of his career, I think that you could use a guy that has that same vertical speed and can stretch the field if you're going to draft a wide receiver at all. Van Jefferson I like, but I don't think he's necessarily that guy. And obviously Cooper and Kupp and Robert Woods, while they can get downfield and make plays, I think they're most suited in that short to intermediate route, especially with Cooper Kupp just catching everything he can underneath and in the slot. So that would be my take on it. There are a couple other guys as well. Tamorian Terry is another guy that sticks out. Maybe a Sage Surratt as well in the later rounds. But Anthony Schwartz is intriguing. I think a lot of teams will be intrigued by him. The Raiders might take him in the 3rd round with only 2 picks. If Mark Davis has anything to say about it, he's got 4.2 speed. They're going to take him. So, but no, there's definitely some intriguing prospects in this draft if you're looking for 4th round or later.
Yeah, so the wide receiver position specifically, I think burner is something that the Rams will be looking for coming off of the 2019 season, moving on from a guy like Brandon Cooks. I think that was something that the Rams offense just was missing a little bit last year. And the coaching staff tried to sell to us that Josh Reynolds was that over-the-top burner, and just no one was buying it, and that just wasn't real. So shifting gears a little bit to the cornerback position. So corner absolutely looks like something that the Rams will address in this draft. Are there any names that stand out to you as far as where the Rams are selecting, maybe at 57 or maybe even in that later 3rd round, which is where I really expect this move to be made by the Rams?
Yeah, if you're looking at what the Rams have on their cornerback roster right now, they're pretty good on the outside. I think inside is where you're kind of looking. One guy that I like that could be there around 57, Aaron Robinson out of UCF, Central Florida. He's a good guy. He's got he needs to add a little bit more discipline sometimes, but his anticipation, his play style, he's really more of an inside corner, but has outside versatility as well. So say something happens or certain looks and certain schemes, he's already got NFL athleticism. He can move around. He can keep up with bigger wide receivers. He's got pretty good height and weight at 5'11", 186. His 40 was 4'3", so he can keep up with the speedy receivers as well. I like him around 57. Maybe he slides a little bit into the 3rd, and maybe you guys can, maneuver to get him if you start to see him fall into the 3rd a little bit. But at 57, I think he makes a lot of sense there if they were going to look for a cornerback. In the 3rd round, a couple options. Let me just bring up Ambry Thomas of Michigan. He's a guy who can play really he has starting upside, but is also one of these guys with inside-outside versatility. I think that's what the Rams are kind of looking at. Someone who can, if need be, can step outside, but has that inside versatility. Because with Jalen Ramsey on the field, he's your outside number 1 shadow guy most of the time. He's going to lock down either side of the field he's on. And you guys have a couple other good cornerbacks there at the number 2 spot and number 3 spot. But this draft, like wide receiver, is pretty deep at cornerback. You can really get guys in that 3rd, 4th round that could come, especially if you're only looking for a nickel guy and not a starting outside guy. There's guys that could be there. Another guy, Shakur Brown, of Michigan State, 5'9", 185. He ran a 4.6 40, so a little bit slower, but he's got pretty good technique, great experience in the game, his foot quickness, ball skills. Those are all up there, high tier for this cornerback. Again, we're looking into the third, fourth round. These guys aren't checking all the boxes, but they do have certain things and certain aspects of their game that you can definitely employ, especially if you're in a nickel cornerback where you're I mean, in today's NFL, you're on the field quite a bit, but if you're subbing out in and here, he's got the traits that you're looking for sure. Another guy, Zach McPherson out of Texas Tech. Another guy, he's 5'10", 196. He didn't run the 40 time at his pro day, but he's another guy. He's fluid. He's got good hips, can turn around, good cover skills. His play recognition has improved every year throughout his with the Texas Tech Raiders, right? Every year. So he's definitely a guy that can compete for starting reps right out of the get go. But it's just more system wise and how quick he can pick it up. Remember, these guys are going from playing against college guys to pros, and any quarterback on that team is going up against 3 stud wide receivers. So they're going to get thrown into the fire real quick, whether you're covering Deshaun Jackson, Cooper Kupp, or Robert Woods. They're going to bring the best out of you. You're either going to, you're going to rise to the occasion, or you're going to sink like a ship. Some of these guys obviously definitely need some time, but a guy like Zach McPherson, he's good in man and zone. He can do both of those different roles. So again, inside outside ability. I think that's what you're looking for. Teams are looking for more nowadays, is a guy who can play inside, but if need be can slip outside as well. And that's when you see these smaller guys. Usually they're on the inside because slot receivers are usually a little bit smaller than the bigger guys on the outside. So there's definitely some guys they can take, whether looking at 57. Heck, Asante Samuel Jr., I doubt it, but maybe he falls down to them at 57, or they decide, hey, he's sitting there around 48. They want to trade up and get him, and that'd be a perfect guy, inside, outside, starter at FSU. Obviously has a pedigree with his dad, Asante Samuel, former Patriot, former Eagle. There's definitely guys that they can target in the second round and later to fill that role. There's also guys later in the draft. I'm going to say one name. He's my draft crush. I love him so much, and it kind of solves 2 roles for you. Avery Williams, he's projected to be a 7th guy, but he's a guy. He's from Boise State. He's a cornerback, but he's a guy that he does so much well on special teams that you could see someone drafting him, the New England Patriots, in the 5th round, because they love taking those special teamers, right? This guy is a stud gunner. He's a stud kick returner, punt returner, 9 touchdowns returned. He has over 5 blocks, a forced fumble in the 5 punt and kick blocks, a forced fumble. The guy is an absolute machine when it comes to playing on special teams as a gunner role. Any role you put him in, he's had success there. But he's also a really capable nickel cornerback. I mean, he can cover inside, and he's got the speed, agility, and ability that teams are actually looking at deploying him as a running back in some schemes as well. So he's got that not only 2-way, but 3-way versatility where he can play running back on offense. He can play inside corner, a little bit of safety, because he did that too as well when injury struck. I think he started 2 games at safety, and he can be your punt returner, kick returner, and special teams ace. So the way he described himself in an interview with Justin Mello of the Draft Network was, he said he's a mixture between Matthew Slater and Devin Hester on special teams. And if you can get that guy in the 6th, 7th round, which I don't think he'll be 6th, maybe early 6th, but I think that's a guy that you would love to have, and anyone would love to have on his team. And especially, we're talking about Sean McVay here, the whiz kid. He can definitely figure out some creative ways to get him used in that backfield.
Yeah, Coach Bones was the one that used to be the one that would get us those special teams guys. He's the one that was responsible for bringing in Nick Scott from Utah State, that safety, just a couple of years back. He was the one that really pushed for that. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here just a little bit. I want either just one, or I'll give you up to 2 names of guys that just make perfect sense in this class to go to the LA Rams, whether that's a need fit, whether that's just a scheme fit, a guy that you just think fits perfectly with Sean McVay or Raheem Morris. Who is that 1 or 2 guys?
Well, looking at the team, and me and you talked a little bit before, I think offensive line could definitely be, specifically the center position, could be a spot where they could address. But a center that has, guard flexibility as well. I'm thinking a guy like Quinn Miners out of Wisconsin Whitewater, D3 guy, hasn't really gone up against, like SEC Division I competition, but he was invited to the Senior Bowl, a late invite, and the guy was absolutely dominant, and he performed against a top defensive lineman in the country, and dominated every single practice. Mind you, he was playing with a broken hand. Mind you, he was playing at center. Mind you, even more, he taught himself how to snap because he was a guard all throughout college. So the guy is he's one of those mean, nasty, mean street guys who are really going to deliver on every play. And he plays a little too aggressive sometimes because he's a strong guy. So he tries to bully you around with his strength. He can end up on the ground. But again, he's learning, and he is a center with Los Angeles. He's going to learn real quick. How to block and how to hold his own, because Aaron Donald ain't gonna have none of that. So that'd be amazing to watch kind of go. Another guy in that position, Creed Humphreys out of Oklahoma, another center. He's probably the best center in the class. He might not fall there, but a guy who would make a lot of sense as well. He's a plug and play type of guy. I know you have two guys kind of fighting for it right now, but I think he'd really challenge them to open up and starting as a starting base center. Lyndon Dickerson, again, another interior. He's got the center guard versatility. Knock on him is injuries. He was injured at FSU before he transferred to Alabama. Alabama, obviously, the torn ACL. It was nice Nick Saban let him get that one snap in the championship game. That was nice to see. He's progressing nicely, but he's also 24 years old when the season starts. So he's an older center who has injury history. But he's another guy I think has a chance of potentially slipping. A lot of people have him in the first round, but doing certain mocks and certain variations of predictive scenarios, he could be there at the end of the round. I know some people have him falling to the floor, so he's another guy who could be there. And then I think we kind of running back is intriguing. I know they have Malcolm Brown. I know they have Cam Akers.
Brown's gone now.
Oh, Brown's gone. Oh,
Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson look like the two right now.
Okay. So wait, Malcolm Brown's gone. Just Darrell Henderson's there?
Yeah, it's Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, and then Clay Campbell.
Okay. Yeah. So running back could definitely be
Raymond Calais. Sorry.
Raymond Calais, former Buccaneer who was drafted last year. Yeah, running back could definitely be a position that they look at. Maybe not directly in the first, but in the third round. A guy like Kenneth Gainwell can make a lot of sense there. Obviously, they're going more of a committee style. I think what you said, cornerback. I think Aaron Robinson, looking at him more, I think he'd be a perfect fit there. Kind of shore up that need in the backfield with that slot corner that has the ability to play outside. And really hold his own. Like I said, 4.37 speed. He's going to hold up. Him and Deshaun Jackson in practice, I think, would be pretty fun to watch. And then I know you mentioned Schwartz, but like I said, Marquez Stevenson, I think he's a guy that McVay could get a lot out of. He's a field stretcher. He offers that return ability. There's with them having a second round pick, it's a little more difficult. I mean, they got a great return for their first round pick. Let's not get that twisted. We'll see, but definitely last year's, but this upcoming year's as well. I think they're going to have a great return for it. But yeah, I think those guys make a lot of sense. If you're looking at some other, hold on, just bear with me right here. I'm just going through my notes.
These all make sense though.
What?
These all make sense. I love the.
Yeah. I'm just looking through my notes. I don't want to miss anybody. Sorry, I've got this.
You're way over the two name list.
I told you, you get me on here, I'm gonna start going. You're gonna have to cut me off when you want to cut me off.
Yeah, I understand.
Who's another position they could look at? They did lose Gerald Everett. I don't know how sold they are on Tyler Higbee. Brevin Jordan could be a good guy. Move tight end, instead of a wide receiver, you get a guy like Brevin Jordan. He's out of Miami. Move tight end, can play. He's not as good as a blocker, but you know what? He does offer that ability. I hate to say his name anymore, but Aaron Hernandez, he can move slot. He can play inline. Very, very gifted wide receiver. Got good speed. He's a guy they could look at for sure. Wyatt Davis, guard. If you guys need a guard, he could be there around there. There's some names. There's definitely some names. I mean, if they want to take a wide receiver early, Amon-Ra St. Brown would be perfect.
I know with the USC connection, I know there's a lot of Rams fans who would absolutely love that pick.
Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown would be like, I mean, you don't think they go wide receiver that high, but we want to talk about a guy who could just in the slot could just and as a return man and everything like that. Him and Amari Rodgers, either of those two guys would be wonderful in that offense and just open a lot of different things up. Especially good speed, great route running ability. Yeah, there's definitely some guys there that will be able to make an impact. I also would have put it past them to move down a little bit. I could see them moving out of the second round, going into the early third round, picking up another pick. I think they only have 5 picks in this.
6, yeah. It's 6 right now, and I've been pretty open about the fact that I feel like we end up drafting 8 players. However, that seems to work out. I feel like that's how it happens. But 57 is where we sit right now. That's about where the Rams usually pick first. We're getting kind of used to that. But what my question for you is, if the Rams were to trade up instead of trading down, which is kind of what I'm expecting, it sounds like that's kind of what you're expecting too. If the Rams were to trade up, who is it for? And I know they can't move up that far from 57. You're not looking at like a top 15 or something like that, but you can maybe see the back of the first. Maybe I don't really anticipate that, but I would say maybe in the 40s somewhere makes the most sense for a move up. But who would that be for?
Yeah, let me double check right now because you have 2 third round picks at your disposal. So if you were to package your third round pick with your second round pick, that would put you at you could get up to like 48. At least 48 with the draft tech value chart, which is what most GMs are using nowadays. At least 48. If it's a team that really wants to move back, maybe you're looking at like 44, 45, 46. New England at 46 makes sense. They'll pick up a second and a third, to do it. They seem like a team that's always willing to move back. But yeah, that's definitely a possibility up there. And then you're looking more into that Asante Samuel Jr. guy. He could be there at 48. You're looking more at, I think that's where Creed Humphreys could fall as a center. I mean, heck, Javonte Williams might be there, running back at a USC, if you wanted to pair him up with Cam Akers, although you took a running back in the second. I highly doubt that. I don't know how good your edge is, but there'll be plenty of good edge rushers there. Did you guys sign? No.
We brought back Leonard Floyd. We did lose Samson Ebukam to the Seattle Seahawks.
And you lost Dante Fowler last year, right?
Yeah, Fowler's in Atlanta. With Leonard Floyd, it looks like right now the opposite of that would probably be Ogbonnaya Okoronkwo and possibly Terrell Lewis in a rotational kind of situation.
So you could definitely use an edge.
Yeah, that spot could definitely be addressed. But if it's not addressed, it's not in my eyes. That doesn't scream, this isn't a playoff team. They didn't get another edge, but it's definitely a spot that can be improved.
And you lost Brockers this season too. So yeah. I mean, there's some defensive tackles there that could be Levi Onwuzurike from Washington could be a good fit at that spot. He could probably fall there. As for edge rushers, you're looking at possibly a guy like Gregory Rousseau could fall that far. Projected as a top 10 pick last year. He opted out last year, kind of had a bad pro day, and he's kind of fell down the boards. A lot of people think he'll be a second round guy. I don't know if he falls all the way to 48, 46 if you move there. But a guy like Carlos Boogie Basham from Wake Forest, he's a guy that could be there. Joseph Osai out of Texas. And even if you wanted to address edge rusher at 57, a guy like Peyton Turner could be there. A guy like kid from Oklahoma. What's his name? I know you don't know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I
probably don't
know. No, there's just so much going. There's so many draft guys. Ronnie Perkins from Oklahoma. He's a guy that could potentially be there. There's another Rashad Weaver. He's a guy who could potentially be there out of Pittsburgh. So there's definitely targets at 57 that you could get an edge rusher as well. But you could get a higher tier one if you traded up a little bit.
All right. So at 57, the Rams.
Also a tackle too. You're not getting any younger there.
Which like 87 years old now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's getting him the next guy in for him, because the way Noteboom came in after Whitworth got hurt, Noteboom slid over to that left tackle spot. He actually played better than I expected him to, but still not to the level that I'm necessarily like, all right, Noteboom's the guy after Witt's done, you know? So I could see that being addressed for sure.
Especially with a guy now like Matt Stafford, who's had injury concerns in the past. You want to make sure, you know, you're protected in that area. A guy like Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama, who can play guard and tackle. Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame, pro, seen everything that there is to be thrown at him. Another guy, Jackson Walker Little out of Stanford. Walker Little opted out last year. He only played one game due to injury in 2019, but after 2018, they were talking about him being a potential first-round pick. He's got that potential. He could definitely be there for that. Brady Christensen out of BYU, block for Zach Wilson. He's a guy. There's some guys there at tackle that could be there. That could be really sound fits. Dylan Raduns from North Dakota State, blocked for Trey Lance. I know I'm saying those names because I know you know those names. James Hudson out of Cincinnati. Yeah, there's some guys there that could be there at 57 that could really be good pickups. And even if they traded up a little bit, Samuel Cosme could be a guy too. Just kind of looking through my notes, I think that there's definitely some tackles available for them if they decide to go that route. And I don't think it would necessarily be a bad idea. I mean, like we just said, you got to make sure you're protecting the quarterback. That's the biggest thing. And while, you know, an extra edge rusher would be nice, cornerback would be nice, wide receiver would be nice. Witz is 80. So
the Rams picking at 57, and obviously the most recent first round pick of the Rams was Jared Goff, who is not only on his second contract but also his second team, so he's not even around anymore. Rams don't pick in the first round again until 2024, so we got a couple of years. We get a little span going of first round free drafts that we have, but we're talking about protecting the quarterback. And to shift a little bit away from the draft conversations, the quarterback change. I was a Goff guy. I wanted Goff when he played it. It was Cal against Air Force in his bowl game. That was the first time I really watched him play, and he absolutely lit up Air Force. So it made me look into him a lot more, and I wanted Jared Goff. Unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, depending on which way you're going to look at it, the Rams have obviously moved on from him, brought in Matthew Stafford. Now, as a Goff guy, I am very willing to admit that Jared Goff is an improvement, Matthew Stafford is an improvement over Jared Goff. How much, I'm not sure, but I want to know from the outsider's perspective, from not a Rams fan perspective, because we are torn. We have people who say that, you know, what are we doing? He's 33, he's injury history. And then you got the side that's, he's only ever played with the Lions. This is the best running game, like group of weapons, defense, and coaching staff that he's ever seen in his career. What is the outside perspective? What is that outside opinion on this Rams move, and how much better does it make the LA Rams over Jared Goff?
Super Bowl contenders. I'll just put it flat to you. When I'm looking at the NFC, I'm looking at the Rams as one of the most viable threats to challenge the Buccaneers for a Super Bowl. I think the Seahawks have a lot to do. Their defense started to come around last year towards the end, but they definitely could use help on the draft. We don't really have to turn on the TV to realize that, you know, listen to Russ talk about his offensive line and realize that that offensive line has been pretty bad for a couple of years now. They do have some good weapons, but you know, if you gotta be able to let Russ cook, right? And you can't do that if he doesn't have an offensive line. And you know, the running game has been injured frequently. You're looking at Arizona, nah, I don't trust it. Depending on what the 49ers do, you know, NFC least, no. Green Bay Packers, potentially. Everybody else in that division, I don't think so. The Lions, obviously not. The Vikings can't get out of their own way. And the Bears, Andy Dalton doesn't inspire me. To me, when I'm looking around the league, I'm looking at the Rams as the best team to challenge the Buccaneers for a potential Super Bowl berth. And I actually have them in my way too early predictions for the NFC Championship game. That's who I've got playing each other, is the Rams and the Buccaneers, with obviously the Buccaneers winning,
Well,
going on to the Super Bowl.
We all know the last time these two teams met in an NFC Championship game. All right.
But no, I really think it's a huge improvement over Goff. I like Goff. He got them to a Super Bowl, so let's not take that away from him. But I think he's reached his ceiling in the league. His relationship with Sean McVay deteriorated to the point where they weren't even talking to each other. They could no longer function. And if your quarterback, we saw it with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick to an extent. All right. I think the media likes to overblow that. But when you're in a marriage with your coach and quarterback, I mean, you guys have to be in sync. You have to be reading each other's thoughts almost, and when that's no longer there, that's no longer viable. I think it's time for a divorce, time for a breakup. And the Rams shot themselves in the foot with that contract, right? And they had to overpay to get Matt Stafford. But I think Matt Stafford, like I said, propels them into the Super Bowl talk, like right away. Coincidentally enough, where's the Super Bowl this year?
It is in LA.
Could they be the second team in history to go to
If
win
that happens back to back, I won't be mad about it because you can't change last year's Super Bowl. So,
so
maybe we can get a Rams Chargers Super Bowl this year, huh?
You kind of saw the hey, at least they have an old field. Maybe they'll do a better job selling this one out than the soccer field they couldn't sell out. But that's going to motivate them. Obviously, after watching the Bucs do it, every team wants that feeling, and the Rams and Chargers both have that ability potentially this year. More so the Rams, because let's face it, it's the Rams stadium. They're just letting the Chargers play there. This is pretty much what it comes down to. But yeah, but pretty much, yeah. I think my power rankings are Bucs, Rams, and I know a lot of people will be like, well, what about the Packers? What about the Seahawks? What about these other teams? And just based on offseason moves and additions, let's see what Green Bay does in the draft and post-draft. But as of right now, what I like the most is what I've seen from the Rams, and all it really took was a quarterback change.
Well, step one is getting out of the division. It's a very tough division. Even Arizona looking like
division football,
the worst team. I mean, they can win 8-9 games this year, So I'm kind of intrigued by the 49ers. It looks like it really does feel like they're just 1 year behind the Rams. You lose a Super Bowl, then you miss the playoffs. It just, with injury season and stuff it just feels like they're one season behind the Rams. So they'll probably win 10 games, get out of the wild card round, and then get booted. That's just how.
I think in the entire division, that entire division could make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. But I mean, I'm on the side of as a Rams fan, I will celebrate if the 49ers take Mac Jones. I will be happy about that. If they take Trey Lance, I'll be a little bit nervous.
I wouldn't be so happy about that, because I think Mac Jones gives them the best opportunity to win now.
But I think that you'll see that in the first, 2 possibly.
His ceiling's going to max out.
But yeah, but if we take a 10-year, sample size, I think we're going to look back on that and say, no, he wasn't the right pick.
But if you're comparing it to right now, both of your franchises are in pretty much the same kind of zone. If you're looking at it, you have a quarterback right now who probably has maybe 3 years tops left in him to continue the high level play where he's at. And Mac Jones, I think, you're going to get his ceiling is kind of, he can come in and start now. He doesn't have the highest ceiling in the draft, but he's a guy who can come in and start right away. But his ceiling is lower. His ceiling is lower than what you're going to get out of Mac Jones this year, next year. What you're going to get out of him.
Yes.
There's no more than that. And with Trey Lance, I think, who has the most more than that ability in the draft, and then Justin Fields right below him. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Whoever gets drafted by the 49ers, I think that they'll probably be pretty thankful, considering all of the teams that need a quarterback or are looking at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
That's one hell of a situation to fall into over the Jets, over the Broncos, over the Jags, even though obviously Lawrence to the Jags, locked and loaded. Wilson to the Jets looks like it's a done deal, but that's the one where it's like anybody who can fall into the 49ers, probably going to do okay for at least the first few years. I think that's confident saying that.
And the press conference, I think, really that they had today really made me think they're going to go Mac Jones. I mean, the way they talked about Jimmy G, the way they talked about looking for a starter. We're looking for a starter. We knew we need to find a new starter.
Shanahan say he can't predict who's going to be alive by Sunday.
Yeah. Well, that's what the Jimmy. Yeah. With the whole Jimmy G thing, will Jimmy G be in the roster? I don't know who'll be alive by Sunday. You're not committing to Jimmy G for another year. If they said yes, Jimmy G is going to be here. He's going to be the guy. Then I'm like, okay, automatically I'm taking Trey Lance as the pick, because Trey Lance is a guy who needs at least a year. I think at least a full year to sit behind someone, learn the nuances of the game. He came from a small school, only played one game this year. I think he needs more than a couple games to say, all right, go get him, Tiger. I think he needs a full year to sit, a la Patrick Mahomes, not comparing the players, but I think he needs that type of environment. Justin Fields, I think, is more of a guy like Tua, where you can say, okay, Jimmy, start half the season, and if we're struggling or whatnot, if you're not getting the job done, well, Justin Fields is going to go in and start in the second half. Mac Jones, I think, is a plug-and-play starter. You draft him, he's coming out of a variation of your offense with Sarkisian, Ryan in Atlanta, Matt Ryan in Atlanta, Kirk Cousins in Washington, similar type of quarterbacks to Mac Jones. The fact that they're saying, we're looking for a starter, Jimmy, we don't know if Jimmy G will be who will be alive by Sunday, yada, yada, yada. Like those are the things, those are the keywords. John Lynch saying, it's my decision, but McVay is the play caller. I'm going to lean on him, what he wants to do. Not McVay, I'm sorry. Shanahan is a play caller. I'm going to lean on him and do what he wants to do. And I think Shanahan wants Mac Jones. I think Lynch wants Trey Lance. And I think that's the crossroads they're at right now. And then we'll see what happens. I mean, all reports are they're going between Trey Lance and Mac Jones. Could be a smoke screen, what people are saying. But what the hell do you need a smoke screen for? There's no one going ahead of you.
Yeah, that having a smoke screen makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense.
If you are interested in more than one guy, there is no harm in leaking the fact of like, oh no, we actually really like these two. We're just going to do our research and then make a selection.
Unless they're trying to trade down a few spots. If they're trying to trade down a few spots with a team that's trying to move up, which I don't know which team would want to move up, I really can't see. I mean, if you move down to Detroit doesn't want to move up, right? The Panthers might want to move up, but it's going to be for a quarterback. So then if the Panthers move up to 3, they're drafting a quarterback. Yeah, I definitely think so.
Do you go for quarterback top 10 after you pick up Darnold like that? I mean, or do you look for possibly see what Darnold does this year?
From some of the Panthers fans I've talked to, they think that they're still going to target. They still could potentially target a quarterback in this draft. So that's I'm like. But then you go to 9, and now 9. Now you have teams trading up. Does Cleveland trade up from one of these? I mean, Chicago. Does Washington trade up? Do the Patriots trade up? Does Atlanta take a quarter? So now you're back in that risk, and you gain it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand what they're doing. I think they jumped the gun way too early. They want to control the narrative because there were 3 good quarterbacks, and now they're stuck with giving up 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and they have no idea really who they want to take. They're listening to all the fans and media is like, well, you could have had him at 12 or at least 13 or 8 or 7 or whatnot, which I think is true. If Mac Jones is the guy, hindsight's 2020, you probably could have traded up to 7 with Detroit, who wants to move back anyways, and only given up a third-round pick or something like that, and a third rounder next year and still got Mac Jones. I don't know. It's crazy.
Always got to be weary of the guy who ends the season after games are being played. He's a second or third round pick. And then as time goes on and nothing happens, all of a sudden he's a top 5. You always got to be weary of that.
Exactly.
So, all right, we got at Joshua_C_Allen, the man with 3 first names, Joshua Allen, host of the Audible on Bucs Report. Dude, thank you so much for taking some time and actually, providing some Ram Showcase draft content that my brain just cannot do. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Anytime you want to have me back on, especially before that game, we're gonna.
We'll lock that in for sure.
For sure.
Find you? Obviously, we need to listen to you. We need to do some. Where do we find you?
So yeah, you can find me here on Bucs Report. Obviously, my Twitter handle, which you just said, Bucs Report, every Thursday at 8:30. I have the Audible behind me. That's a live show I do. We do it on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook on the Bucs Report. Check us out. Give us a follow. Give me a follow. Multitude of shows. I'm actually jumping off this podcast right now, hopping on another live show called the Bucs Report Show, hosted by Rick Hughes. Thursday, I'll be at the draft party at Raymond James Stadium. Friday, we'll have a big draft party at Ferg's Sports Bar in St. Pete. I know there are Rams fans all over the world. So if you guys are in St. Pete looking for a draft party, just to hang out, have a couple drinks, some specials, giveaways, feel free to pop by there. Otherwise, you can also find me on Locker Room. I don't know if you know about the Locker Room app, but Locker Room app is changing the way we talk sports. Literally, it's an audio-based platform where you can go in and have live conversations with people all around the world. We just did a live 32-person, 32-team mock draft yesterday, which was pretty cool. 32 representatives and teams came in. We all took a turn, 2 rounds, and drafted for our respective teams. There's watch parties going on. I'm sure whatever game is going on right now, they have a watch party in a room where they're all talking about it. Post-game shows. Right now they're having a 2010s music draft. So there's 5 people representing, and they're drafting music. Knicks and Suns watch party. Sports talk show. Magic will always be the best point guard. Texas versus Pennsylvania. Just to give you an idea, NBA talk. Different things that are on there. You just go and start your own room or go to an active room and talk sports with fans all around the world. And there's other things too. Like I said, the music room, there's other rooms that pop up here and there. But it's an awesome way to interact with fans. I've learned a lot about other fan bases, other teams, other sports, and I'm on there quite a bit. I highly recommend you guys jump on there. Fortunately, it's only for Apple users right now on iPads and iPhones, but Android is coming out soon. But if you have an Android, get into the 21st century and upgrade to Apple. So what are you doing?
When it opens up for us Android users, I will absolutely hop on there. But thank you, man, so much for talking some draft with me. That is going to do it for this episode. I am Sheriff Joe Baggs. This has been Rams Showcase on Sports World Radio. For those of you who aren't Rams fans, our thoughts and prayers are with you. For those of you that are Rams fans, thank you guys so much for listening. You guys have an awesome night.